The gate closed behind us with 3 different sounds. Iron bars struck stone. White grave reeds hissed as they knitted across the tunnel. The copper-mirrored doors met last, softly enough to sound polite. Every voice behind the inner wall kept shouting names. The mirrored passage broke them into pieces. Han Mu became Han, then water, then a cough. Ma Ji and Ma Jun reached me as 2 men calling from different depths. Lin Xiao's name returned from the floor under Lin Mei's feet. I could not translate whole sentences through that interference, but a name answered by a human voice needed no supernatural proof. Warden Pang lifted one clean hand. The lower wards are disturbed by the vessel's arrival. Intake must proceed before agitation becomes injury. His dark green robes had no dust on them. Copper keys hung from both sleeves. Dragon eyes showed a level 6 cultivator when I risked one short look, earth and mirror affinity, an old break in his left wrist, no visible corruption. It did not tell me whether he had ordered anyone fed to anything. His concern might have been real. A prison can contain frightened people and dangerous people at the same time. That possibility was what made the first lie useful. Lin Mei still held Luo's ledger. Your clerk marked my aunt delivered before she came. Pang looked at the page rather than her. A route reservation can be entered before arrival. Then why did the prisoners answer cell numbers? Zhao asked. That requires review. Good. We will review it now. A broad man in a gray warden coat stepped from the sorting tables. A bronze plate at his throat carried 3 mirrored squares. Dragon Eyes gave me level 5, metal affinity, healed cuts across both palms. He was Ruan Ko, master of intake, and he spoke as if every word had already been entered into a regulation. Inspector, the twin dragon vessel is resonating with the lower apparatus. For the safety of all prisoners, he goes to the hollow chamber. Your witnesses remain above. No transfer without writing, Zhao said. Containment emergency supersedes road procedure. Ruan flicked 2 fingers. 5 gray-coated wardens moved at once. All 5 were level 4. They did not draw blades. They carried forked poles wound with white cord, tools designed to pin a limb, interrupt breath, and press a prisoner down without making a dramatic corpse. Enemies had initiated the argument. I counted exits before weapons. The gate behind us was sealed. A narrow door stood beside the intake tables. A stair descended under the white rope line. The convoy remained crowded in the tunnel, wounded soldiers, 11 formal prisoners, Lin Mei under witness protection, 2 drivers, Medic He, Zhao, Captain 1, and the surviving cavalry. Luo and 6 core hunters were still chained at the evidence wagon. If I fought in the middle, the wardens could call every injury proof that I required stronger containment. I held up both hands. The right palm was blistered and burned. The left shook faintly from Azure's attempt at the ford. Write the emergency, I said. Ruan's eyes narrowed. He understood me because he faced me and spoke clearly. What? Write who ordered it, what danger you observed, where you will put me, and when Inspector Zhao may inspect the room. If it is lawful, ink should not weaken it. Duan he made a low approving sound. Xiaoren repeated the request in cleaner local phrasing. The mirrored walls returned his words without letting the translation settle, but Peng understood. Clerk, Peng said, record temporary resonance isolation under my authority. Inspector present. No feeding, testing, or transfer permitted before joint inspection. Ruan turned his head. Only a fraction. Visible disagreement, not motive. The fort clerk wrote. Lin Mei leaned over his shoulder until every stroke was finished. Zhao read it aloud. Duan corrected the old name of the hollow chamber. Pang accepted the correction and pressed a key-shaped seal into wax. That was plausible authority behaving plausibly. It did not erase the shouting under our feet. The level 4 wardens put white cords around my elbows and knees. They left my throat clear because Zhao required it. Formations and restraint remained counters no matter what my level panel said. 6 trained cultivators, counting Ruan, could close angles faster than speed 7 could find them. A forked pole behind my knee turned the old spear channel into a bright line. Another pressed my fractured rib when I breathed too deeply. Lin Mei stepped beside me before they moved me away. I go with the ledger. You remain at my table, Zhao said. That is not with him. No. It is where you can compare names while I keep him visible. Lin Mei looked from the stair to Zhao's sword. She did not like the answer. She did recognize the job inside it. She handed the rescue rope to me and kept the ledger. Find the ant, I said. Find the machine, she answered. Pong heard. There is no machine beneath this fort. The floor bell rang again. Every mirror bowl turned blue and red. I looked at the warden. Then your floor is lying too. They took me through the narrow door into a passage lined with polished copper. My reflection appeared on both sides, delayed by half a step. The dragons reacted at once. Azure tried to pull my attention into the left wall. Crimson wanted me to strike the right. I watched the warden's boots instead. Current essence, 66. Level 2. Body 8. Speed 7. Spirit 4. Perception 6. Will 8. No full repair had occurred on the road. The left thigh channel remained broadly stabilized but weak. My rib was still fractured. The right shoulder and left forearm were stable, not healed, with 2 fingers numb. The side cut held. The old back and upper thigh tears still burned under load. Both calves and feet carried strain. The palm had abrasion, heat damage, and suppression burns. Blood loss, eye strain, cold exhaustion, and the residual hand tremor traveled with me. Furnace muscle offered 15 essence and the same bad bargain it had offered before, strength now, tissue tearing after, temper harder to govern. I refused it. Ruan walked beside the formation. The lower engine reacts to imbalance. If you resist, you feed it. You just said there was no machine. Engine is an imprecise translation. That was the gate's first lie cracking at the edge. The passage descended. The air warmed while my breath misted. Behind a wall, something wet dragged itself toward the sound of my cores. I had entered Blackreed Fort by choice. The choice had not ended when the lock closed. The hollow chamber was not hollow. It held a treadmill. A timber wheel filled most of the room, taller than 2 men and wide enough for 6 prisoners to walk inside it. Iron ribs reinforced the rim. White grave roots threaded every spoke. A mirrored trough ran beneath it toward a locked drain. 2 failed cultivators trudged inside the wheel with cords around their waists. A third had collapsed between the slats. Each turn dragged him 1 body length before the next slat lifted and dropped him. Ruan Cook called it recovery labor. Duan had called the people who vanished failed cultivators. The fort called them white rope because their affinities were no longer useful. The wheel called them fuel. Stop it, I said. Ruan did not. They are medically cleared for circulation work. Stagnant channels become dangerous. One of the walking prisoners had a left knee swollen twice its proper size. The other coughed blood into his sleeve. Dragon eyes showed visible injuries and thin essence being pulled from their feet through the roots. No thoughts. No histories. No certainty about what would happen if the wheel stopped. Enough to know this was not treatment. Zhao came down behind us with Pang, Lin Mei, Su Lian, Medic He, and 2 clerks. Zhao had insisted on witnesses before I crossed the threshold. Xiao and Duan remained at the stair under guard. Captain Wen held the corridor with 4 road soldiers. Luo and his core hunters stayed above in chains. Su Lian reached the wheel first. That man's knee is separating. Ruan blocked her with 1 arm. Medical prisoners do not touch apparatus. She is a recorded medical witness, Zhao said. She has no fort license. Medic He stepped beside Su Lian. I have an army license. Ruan's arm did not move. Peng said, stop the wheel for inspection. The level 4 operator at the brake looked at Ruan instead. That was evidence of command habit, not yet proof of a crime. Ruan nodded after 1 breath. The brake dropped. The wheel slowed. The collapsed prisoner screamed. A white root had grown through the back of his shirt and into the skin beside his spine. When the wheel stopped, the root tightened. He was not being dragged by accident. The apparatus had attached itself to him. Su Lian pushed past Ruan while Zhao's sword lowered between them. Medic He climbed into the wheel. I followed until 2 forked poles crossed my chest. No techniques, Ruan said. The man's pulse fluttered visibly at his neck. Mending Breath offered a full treatment for 15 or a local stabilization pulse for 5. Cold could slow the root. It could not replace his blood or undo whatever had been taken over months. My current essence remains 66. 5, I told Su Lian. She examined the root, felt the man's jaw, and shook her head. Whole body. His breathing and spine are joined in this. A full treatment cost 15. It would stabilize connected serious wounds without regenerating destroyed tissue or restoring exhausted muscle. It would also deepen my cold exhaustion. I spent 15. Current essence, 51. Mending Breath moved through my hands in a broad cold current. I placed 1 palm beside the root and 1 against the prisoner's ribs. The treatment steadied his breathing, slowed bleeding around the puncture, and supported the damaged muscles along his back. It did not fill the hollows under his cheeks. It did not return the essence already taken. Frost formed over the wheel slat. The grave root recoiled from the cold. Su Lian cut it with a bronze knife. Medic, he caught the man before he fell. The root snapped back into the wheel and disappeared between mirrored boards. A black shape moved under the trough. Dragon eyes opened for less than a second. Mirror Leech. Level 3. Affinity, Reflection, Suppression, Hunger. Visible feed links, wheel roots, mirrored trough, 3 human channels. Visible weakness, body must surface where reflected essence diverges from living source. Then mirrored light struck my sight twice. Blue afterimages covered the room. I closed my eyes and said what I had actually seen. Ruan answered too quickly. There are no leeches in the recovery hall. The trough bulged. A mouth like a ring of silver fingernails opened under the wheel. It bit the frost where my hand had been. The whole apparatus jerked forward despite the break. The 2 standing prisoners fell. One was a narrow man with burned scars over his scalp. The other wore the remains of a ferry worker's blue sash. Names, Lin Mei demanded. The burned man said, Gao Yun. The ferry worker said, Han Mu. Chao's brother. The collapsed man whispered, Ma Ji. One of Willowbank's missing road laborers. The ledger proved cell assignments. Their voices and bodies proved life. The root punctures proved extraction. None of that yet proved who had falsified the orders, but it proved Ruan's denial false while the denied creature showed its teeth. The level 4 operator lifted the brake and tried to restart the wheel. Lin Mei threw the ledger into the gears. Not the whole book. She had wrapped 3 incriminating pages around a wooden tally block. The block jammed between 2 cogs. The wheel stopped hard. The mirror leech surged from the trough, as long as a man and thin as a belt until it fed. Blue light from Han Mu and weak red light from Gao Yun streamed into its transparent body. Ruan shouted, Contain the vessel. 4 poles turned toward me instead of the leech. Zhao's sword struck the floor between their feet. Contain the apparatus. 2 wardens obeyed her. 2 obeyed Ruan. The first fork caught my right elbow. The second drove behind my injured knee. I let the formation push rather than tear against it. Speed could not solve a locked joint. Furnace muscle could have broken both poles for 15 essence and reopened the old tears. I did not use it. Reflection, I told Lin Mei. It surfaces where the image separates. She looked at 6 copper panels and understood before I finished. She took Su Lian's water flask and threw it across the nearest mirror. Muddy water distorted my red-blue reflection. The leech snapped toward the broken image. Medic, he pulled Ma Ji clear. Su Lian dragged Han Mu by his blue sash. Gao Yun kicked the treadmill slat backward, forcing the jammed gears to grind against the roots. I could reach the leech with heat if the poles released me. Ember Fist cost 5. Pang, I said. Your orders said no testing. Decide whether this is a test. Warden Pang stared at the feed strands visible to any cultivator in the room. He drew 1 copper key from his sleeve and struck the level 4 operator's wrist. The brake handle fell. Release Chen Kai, he ordered. Ruan Ku, stand down pending record review. Ruan did not stand down. He pulled the bronze plate from his throat and slapped it onto the wheel. Every mirror in the chamber turned toward my cores. The leech swelled. Peng's explanation remained possible, perhaps he had not known the engine's true use. Ruan's choice was no longer ambiguous. The mirror leech did not have eyes. It wore mine. Blue opened along one side of its clear body. Red opened along the other. The colors were reflections dragged from my cores, not new dragon spirits, but both voices reacted as if challenged. Azure wanted perfect stillness. Crimson wanted the creature crushed while it displayed stolen fire. Ruan's throat plate locked the chamber doors. 5 mirror panels tilted inward. The one Lin Mei had soaked reflected mud. The other 4 showed me from different angles, restrained, cold, bleeding, angry. The leech shifted between those images so quickly that dragon eyes could not keep a clean read. Mirror terrain countered perception by giving visible false positions. The power was not lying to me. The room was. The 2 wardens who had released me moved to the prisoners. The 2 who had obeyed Ruan reset their forked poles. The level 4 wheel operator drew a short iron club. Ruan himself stood behind the apparatus, level 5 pressure running through the roots. Enemy count in the chamber, 1 level 5 cultivator, 3 level 4 wardens still acting under his control, and 1 level 3 mirror leech. 2 other level 4 wardens had shifted to Pang and Zhao. Warden Pang, level 6, remained between commands rather than attacking. Zhao could have crossed the room and cut Ruan. The leech had feed lines in 3 prisoners and mirrored itself against my cores. A blind killing stroke risked cutting Han Mu's blue channel or Maji's spine. Superior power did not erase hostage geometry. Break the mirrors, I said. Ruan smiled without humor. They are load-bearing. Then you built badly. The leech lunged from the wet panel. I saw the muddy reflection move half a heartbeat before the clean ones. Ordinary evidence. I ducked. Its mouth crossed above me and struck a warden's forked pole. The white cord blackened as the creature drank suppression essence. Lin Mei climbed the stopped wheel. She used the spokes as a ladder, reached the tally block in the gears, and tore the 3 ledger pages free before roots could shred them. Then she kicked the block deeper. The wheel's outer rim cracked. Gao Yun, still weak enough to shake, pushed from inside. Again. Han Mu joined him with one arm around his ribs. Ma Shi could not stand, but he caught a loose root and wounded around the axle. The people on the wheel moved before I found my footing. They knew which part of the machine had hurt them. Ruan struck the throat plate. A mirrored pulse hit the prisoners. Gao Yun's weak red light reversed direction. He screamed and folded. I crossed the distance without a technique. Speed 7 let me reach him before the club did. I caught the level 4 operator's wrist with both hands, turned under his elbow, and used his momentum to put him against a spoke. My right shoulder threatened to open. My fractured rib cut my breath short. He was stronger than an ordinary soldier and had a reinforcement arc-moving bronze light under his skin. I did not outmuscle him. Duan's cane came through the door gap and struck the back of his knee. Zhao had forced the outer clerk to open the passage by citing Zhao's sealed joint inspection order. Duan entered first despite the black rope still marking him unstable. Xiao followed with one bound arm. Captain Wen held the clerks at the threshold and made them keep writing. The operator dropped low. I turned his wrist against the wheel and took the club. Brother! Xiao saw Han Mu. Han Mu saw him too. Neither man stopped to embrace. Xiao threw his flattened fairy token. Han caught it and sawed at the root around Gao Yun. The leech came for them. I spent 5 essence on Ember Fist through the Iron Club. Current essence, 46. Heat crossed the club in one brief pulse. My palm blisters opened. The leech avoided the hot iron and entered the nearest clean mirror instead. Its body flattened into silver light. That told Lin Mei what we needed. It cannot hide in the wet one, she shouted. Dirty, all of them. Su Lian overturned the trough. Black water sheeted across the floor. Medic, he kicked a basin at the west panel. Duan flung ash from the break box. Xiao and Han Mu smeared their own bloody bandages over the lowest mirror. Zhao cut a hanging oil line, not with flame but with the flat of her sword, spraying the last panel. Every reflection broke. The leech surfaced in the middle of the room because no panel could carry it cleanly. Its transparent body was now thick as a barrel, filled with blue, red, white, and weak yellow light stolen from prisoners. Dragon eyes found the true feed junction where those colors crossed. I pointed. Zhao's sword moved. Ruan threw the level 4 operator into its path. Zhao bent her blade around him, losing the clean strike. Warden Peng caught the man by his coat. Ruan used that heartbeat to wrench his throat plate free of the wheel and run for the locked drain. Lin Mei jumped from the rim onto his back. She weighed less than half what he did. She did not try to hold him. She looped the rescue rope around the bronze plate and dropped away. Duan caught the rope. Xiao caught Duan's belt. Han Mu planted both feet against the wheel. Ruan lost the plate. The mirror leech lost control of the panels. Gao Yun lifted his head. Break root, he gasped. Feeds under the third spoke. Ma Ji had already wrapped that root around the axle. He pulled it taut with both hands despite the puncture beside his spine. I brought the hot club down on the exposed junction. The leech folded around the iron. It tried to reflect my arm backward, making the elbow appear to bend the wrong way. I ignored the image and trusted the pressure in my hand. The club struck once. The feed root split. Zhao's sword pinned the creature to the muddy floor without touching any human channel. Peng drove a copper key through the throat plate. The plate cracked. The 5 captive feed lines snapped free. The leech convulsed, collapsed into a strip of clear skin, and stopped pulling light. Corrupted feeding node defeated. 5 bound mirror leeches lost active control with the node. Their essence discharged together through the broken trough. Dragon essence gained 80. Current essence 126. The award came from breaking a corruption source, not from killing a helpless prisoner or executing a fallen warden. One visible leech had attacked us. For smaller bodies dropped from pipes under the wheel, starved of the node's control. 5 total were accounted for. None remained active in the chamber. Ruan reached the drain hatch. Zhao's sword stopped against the back of his neck. He froze. Warden Pang looked at the prisoners on the floor, the hidden leech bodies, and the cracked throat plate bearing his fort seal. This hall was authorized for channel recovery, he said. Ruan laughed once. It recovered everything valuable. That was not a confession to every forged record. It was enough to put him in chains. Pang removed his own copper keys and handed them to Zhao. Seal the chamber, he said. Open my records. Lin Mei climbed down with 3 damp ledger pages inside her jacket. Not sealed, she said. People are still attached below. The floor bell answered her. This time, I heard dozens of smaller mouths opening under the stone. Destroying one feeding node did not open the lower wards. It did open a fight over keys. Ruanku went into iron cuffs with white cord between them. The 3 wardens who had followed him surrendered their poles when Peng ordered it. The 2 who had shifted toward the prisoners remained under Zhao's eye. Peng placed the fort clerk, a narrow young man named Kaiwan, at the chamber door and told him to record every person who entered or left. Captain Wen added 2 road soldiers to the count. He had learned what prepared paperwork looked like when used against others. The first chamber's prisoners needed treatment before anyone chased bells. Han Mu had lost body heat and enough essence that his hands would not close. Gao Yun's channels flickered between weak fire and nothing. Ma Ji's back puncture was stabilized, but his legs did not answer him. Su Lian and medic he took command of the floor. Zhao sent for blankets, broth, and the fort infirmary roster. When a storekeeper claimed the lower ward had no spare bedding, Lin Mei read a delivery tally showing 40 blankets received 3 days earlier. 26 appeared. The missing 14 became another question for the records. My own cold had deepened after the full mending breath. My lips were numb. The old muscle tears across my back had tightened during the fight. Ember Fist had opened my palm again. The residual azure tremor now competed with ordinary fatigue. Su Lian pointed at a wall. Sit. There are people below. There will still be people below after you stop falling sideways. She was right. I disliked the efficiency with which she had learned to say it. Pang brought the lower ward keys himself. The main engine cannot simply be stopped. Why? Zhao asked. It draws unstable residue away from cells. Shut every mirror at once and stored pressure returns through the channels. Failed cultivators could rupture. Others could be possessed by reflected fragments. We must isolate each branch. He could have been protecting the engine with technical fear. He could also have been describing a real hazard. Dragon eyes could not judge engineering beyond visible essence. Duan knew the old fort, not the graft wing. Ruan had the detailed knowledge and had chosen chains over cooperation. Gao Yun spoke from under 3 blankets. Main engine has 6 branches. Wheel was 1. Lower holding, infirmary, mirror hall, discipline cells, waste sluice, chimney. Pang stared at him. How do you know? I repaired roots until they put me inside them. That answer changed whose expertise mattered. We built the plan around Gao Yun's memory. Isolate branches one at a time. Remove attached people before breaking feed plates. Keep water, ash, opaque cloth, and hammers ready to deny reflections. Do not let one person's essence surge into a neighboring channel. The final trunk beneath the chimney would remain until all captives were clear. There was one problem I could not assign away. The lower doors used counterweight bars meant for body reinforcement cultivators. Ruan's branch keys opened the locks, but the bars still had to be lifted while roots resisted. Zhao could do it. So could Pang. If either held a bar, the level 5 and level 6 wardens deeper inside could attack around them. I needed to carry part of the physical load without turning furnace muscle into another emergency tear. The system did not offer mastery because I had a reason. Furnace muscle safe baseline requirements appeared only when I asked under controlled conditions. Cost, 15 essence per brief activation. Safe baseline does not mean sustained use. Requirements, repaired or recovered tissue sufficient for load, breath and body alignment, progressive physical conditioning, immediate release after one bounded effort, host control. Effects, temporary strength surge below maximum provisional output. Risks, heat, increased temper, renewed tearing if alignment fails, crimson influence, impaired judgment. Counters unchanged, formation, restraint, poison, poor terrain, broken breath, exhaustion, opposing dragon seals, and loads exceeding the brief window. No insight could make my torn back ready. Su Lian read my expression. The red art again? I need to train it. You need to recover from it. Both. She pressed 2 fingers into the purple bands along my upper thigh. The muscle jumped. Not today. The lower bells kept ringing. Then what can I do today? Walk without favoring the spear channel. Breathe without lifting the broken rib. Pull an empty rope until the back stops guarding. Eat. Sleep. Repeat. Brutal did not always mean dramatic. Sometimes it meant doing a small painful thing correctly after the body had learned to cheat. For the rest of that day, other people opened the first lower branch while I trained under guard in the hollow chamber. Duan tied the rescue rope to the stopped treadmill. No essence. No techniques. I pulled the empty wheel through 1/4 turn using legs, hips, and back in alignment. The first attempt twisted around the injured thigh. Su Lian struck my hip with a spoon. The second attempt lifted my shoulders and stabbed the rib. She stopped me. The third kept my feet square but made me hold my breath. Duan let the wheel roll backward and put me on the floor. Breath is part of the load, he said. Stable teams die when one horse pulls before the others. Lin Mei returned between record searches and marked my foot positions with charcoal. Your left turns out when tired. I have a hole through that thigh. The bar will not care. Neither did the spoon. We used food and ordinary recovery as seriously as any technique. Broth. Millet. Warm stones. Clean bandages. Sleep in 2-hour blocks while Zhao's people rotated watches. I spent no essence to pretend torn muscle had vanished. Mending breath had stabilized connected injuries, not rebuilt exhausted fibers. The tissue needed time, circulation, and progressively honest load. On the second day, I pulled half a turn. On the third, a full turn with pauses. Ma Ji, unable to move his legs, watched from bedding and told me when the wheel's axle changed pitch. Han Mu counted breath. Gao Yun corrected where the old feed routes had made the resistance uneven. Between sets, Lin Mei and Kai Wen compared the fort ledgers. Xiao supplied Reed ferry names. Su Lian supplied South Bank households. Duan identified stable deliveries that had been relabeled as medical transfers. Zhao signed preservation orders. Pan opened cabinets and discovered 3 seals that imitated his own key mark with a flaw at the tooth. His surprise might have been genuine. His failure to inspect them earlier remained his responsibility. The first lower branch yielded 8 prisoners and no active leeches after wardens under Zhao removed opaque covers in the right order. The second yielded Yifan, the South Bank midwife, and 4 fever patients classified as failed cultivators because their bulls had not reacted. They were alive. They were not yet free. Evidence had to show whether lawful charges existed, and several were too sick to move. On the 4th morning, Su Lian let me test the red technique against a sandbag hanging from the treadmill frame. I aligned heel, knee, hip, shoulder. I inhaled before load. I exhaled through the lift. I spent 15 essence. Current essence, 111. Furnace muscle entered below the old desperate surge. Heat-wrapped muscle instead of exploding through it. I lifted the sandbag from floor to chest and set it on the platform within 3 breaths. Then I released the technique. My temper remained hot after my body cooled. Ruan coughed from his chain corner, and for one ugly second I wanted to make him demonstrate the wheel he had called recovery. Lin Mei said my name. I stepped away from him. Su Lian examined every old tear. One had reddened. None had reopened. Again? I asked. Tomorrow, she said. The system agreed. Safe baseline trial 1 complete. Recovery required before repetition. Not mastery. 1 correct lift after 4 days of work. Below us, a ward bell struck 3 times. Kai Wen ran into the chamber with ink on both sleeves. Deputy MO has closed the mirror hall, he said. He says Warden Peng's keys are compromised and Inspector Zhao has no authority over inner discipline. Peng's face changed. MO Jian commands 14 cultivator wardens, he said. 8 are level 4, 4 level 5, 2 level 6 including MO. We had already accounted for 6 intake wardens, Ruan, 3 who followed him, and 2 who obeyed Peng. The deeper force was separate. 14 armed cultivators now stood between us and the remaining branches. The prison had finished pretending this was only a records review. Deputy MO Jian sent terms instead of an attack. That made him more dangerous than Ruan. His message came on a black bamboo strip carried by a level 4 warden with both hands visible. MO accepted Warden Peng's authority over the outer fort. He accepted Zhao's authority over the twin dragon vessel. He denied both had authority to interrupt inner discipline treatment during an active resonance emergency. He offered to release 6 named prisoners after sunset if we returned Rouen, restored the wheel branch, and removed me from the fort. 6 lives attached to 3 conditions. A bargain shaped to make refusal look like cruelty. Lin Mei read the 6 names twice. Ma Jun was first. Lin Xiao was fourth. 2 Willowbank and South Bank captives appeared on the list with 2 others from Reed Ferry and 1 caravan guard named Bao Lu. Why these 6? I asked. Kai Wen searched the intake ledger. All marked reactive. All assigned to Mirror Hall today. Mo was not offering prisoners he could safely release. He was moving the people whose records we had already named. Zhao asked the messenger, when did Deputy Mo learn Wan was detained? The young warden's eyes shifted toward the floor bell cord. The branches signal one another. Visible fear. No readable intention. Did he see evidence? No. Then how did he know which 6 we would demand? The messenger looked at Lin Mei's ledger pages. Mo had access to Luo's route list or a matching copy. Peng closed his hand around 1 copper key. Tell Deputy Mo that inner discipline remains under my office. He will open the hall for joint inspection. The messenger bowed but did not leave. He asks for your authority strip, he said. Peng reached for his sleeve. Lin Mei caught his wrist. Every warden in the chamber moved. Zhao's sword appeared against the nearest throat before I could stand. Lin Mei released Peng and pointed at the messenger's bamboo strip. 2 dates. The writing meant nothing to me. The system gave no convenient literacy. Kai Wen leaned close. Zhao read over him. Peng's face went still. The offer referred to Rowan's detention under a date stamp made the night before our convoy arrived. Not a prediction from Dragon Eyes. Ink, calendar marks, and a 17-year-old who remembered what she read. Kai Wen pulled the nightly discipline register from the open records cabinet. The same 6 names had been scheduled for emergency mirror transfer before the road bells counted us. Most strip had been prepared with blank conditions and filled after Rowan's arrest. The prisoners were not bargaining pieces chosen in response to chaos. They had been scheduled for the engine already. Warden Peng took no authority strip from his sleeve. Tell Mo Jian the record proves premeditated unlawful transfer, he said. He will release every person in Mirror Hall, surrender his branch seals, and present himself for questioning. The messenger swallowed. He said you would say that. Then he bit through something hidden behind his back tooth. Su Lian crossed the room before the rest of us understood. She drove her thumb under his jaw and forced his mouth open. A black seed cracked between his teeth. Bitter smoke rolled over her hand. Poison. Medic, he shouted. The messenger convulsed. Su Lian turned him on his side. He June scraped fragments out with a spoon. I opened Dragon Eyes for one short look. A visible dark line moved down his throat toward his heart, but the mirrored room doubled it. I could not identify the compound or know whether healing would help. Mending breath could stabilize a local injury for 5. It was not an antidote. Cold might slow circulation. It might also kill a man already losing breath. Su Lian? 5. Throat and chest. Slow, not stop. I spent 5. Current essence, 106. Cold entered one narrow route from the messenger's jaw to his upper chest. His pulse slowed. The dark line moved less quickly. No poison vanished. Medic, he forced warm salt water into him and made him vomit. Su Lian used an herb from her own confiscated pouch only after smelling the seed. The messenger breathed. He did not wake. Poison remained a counter. A level 4 cultivator had been reduced to a helpless body in 3 breaths. My bounded immortality would not have turned the seed into food. If both cores were starved or confused while poison stopped my heart, regeneration might never begin. Kai Wen found a matching black seed listed in the discipline stores as a silence mercy. The issue column carried Rowan's seal. The receiving column carried Mo's. Peng sat on the edge of the stopped wheel. I authorized silence seeds for prisoners whose corrupted channels caused unending pain, he said. 1 seed, witnessed by physician and family or magistrate. I did not authorize them for wardens. Su Lian's voice was flat. Did you count what remained? No. Then you authorized a locked poison jar and trusted the men holding the key. Peng accepted the blow without defending himself. That made him more plausible, not innocent. Zhao set 3 records on the floor, the false intake entries that named Xiao, Su Lian, and Duan before arrival, the will registration strip concealed from her convoy, and most predated transfer list. Then she added the poison messenger's issue record. The fort's records are not merely mistaken, she said. They are arranged to make predetermined seizures appear lawful after the fact. Until that moment, Zhao had guarded me while investigating the fort. Her duties still pointed toward the court. She had treated my claims as testimony, useful only when supported. Now the records provided support without asking her to trust me. She drew a clean bamboo strip and wrote a new order. Blackreed Fort's inner discipline wing was placed under emergency inspector suspension. All feeding, mirror treatment, transfer, and execution authority stopped. Captives remained where moving them would cause immediate medical danger, but no apparatus could run. Warden Pang retained outer security under Zhao's countersign. Captain Wen received command of the gate and signal tower. Kai Wen became evidence clerk under joint seal. Ruan Ku and any officer refusing inspection were detained. Then Zhao looked at me. You are still a forbidden vessel under my custody. I know. I will not release you inside a populated fort. I did not ask. You were about to. I was considering the wording. Her sword settled at her side. I am authorizing you to assist in breaking the engine branches under my direct order. If you attack surrendered wardens, approach the signal tower, or lose host control, I will stop you. There was no friendship in the order. There was an alliance built from records. Agreed, I said. Lin Mei added, and prisoners come out first. Zhao looked at her. That is already the order. Read it. Zhao read the whole strip aloud. Only then did Lin Mei let Kai Wen seal it. Mo Jian answered by ringing the discipline alarm. The sound moved through the floor like a hammer through bone. 14 cultivator wardens took positions below. The chimney inhaled hard enough to pull ash from the moat against the walls. Every remaining branch lit at once. Mo had begun feeding the engine faster. We did not charge the mirror hall. The direct stair was 6 feet wide, lined with polished copper, and crossed by 3 whitecord gates. 14 cultivators who knew the terrain could hold it against more than our wounded convoy. Zhao might cut through the formation. The prisoners attached behind it would receive every reflected shock. Gao Yun gave us another route. The old stable drainage passage ran beneath the discipline wing. Duan had used it to clear flooded stalls before the graft expansion. It opened near the waste sluice branch. The tunnel was low, muddy, and too narrow for sword formations. It was also full of runoff from mirror roots. Poor terrain countered wind step. Tight walls countered furnace muscle by giving strength nowhere safe to go. Poison might be waiting in the water. We chose it because it also countered the warden's pull formation. Before we moved, Su Lian inspected my back. The first safe baseline trial had left one red band but no new tear. 4 days of progressive pulling had changed the old injuries without erasing them. The original damage still existed. Tissue around it had stopped guarding every movement. My thigh could hold a square stance for 5 breaths. My rib remained fractured and limited inhalation. My palm remained open under fresh cloth. Second trial, I said. Same load, she answered. Mo is running the engine. Muscles do not care. Duan hung the same sandbag from the same point. Han Mu counted. Lin Mei marked my feet. Ma Ji lay nearby with feeling beginning to return in one calf, which he complained about because pins and needles hurt more than numbness. I stacked my heel, knee, hip, and shoulder. Breath entered around the rib instead of lifting it. I began the load before calling heat so the technique joined a correct movement rather than rescuing a bad one. I spent 15 essence. Current essence, 91. Furnace muscle wrapped my back, hips, and arms in bounded heat. I lifted the sandbag to chest height, turned one careful quarter step, and set it on the platform. 3 breaths. Release. Crimson wanted a second lift while power remained. I let the power end. That refusal mattered as much as the lift. The safe baseline could not be sustained. Extending it would turn one bounded effort into the old bargain. Su Lian pressed every trained muscle. No new tear. Heat remained. My temper sharpened when the sandbag rope slipped off the platform, but I did not strike it or anyone else. Safe baseline trial 2 complete. Recovery required before repetition. Mastery condition pending, 1 bounded activation under hostile load after full release and host control. 2 rehearsed lifts did not make me a master. The third had to survive fear, terrain, and someone trying to break my breath. We entered the drainage tunnel in 3 teams. Duan led because he knew the old stone. Lin Mei went second with charcoal, rope, and Luo's ledger pages sealed in waxcloth. I followed. Xiao and Han Mu came behind despite Zhao ordering Han to rest. He answered that he had spent months inside the engine and knew which pipes rang before a surge. Zhao allowed him to guide from the rear under Medic He's supervision. Zhao took the center group with Pang, Captain 1, and 4 level 3 road soldiers. Su Lian and Medic He led the rescue team with Maji, Gao Yun, Kaiwen, and 6 ordinary soldiers carrying blankets, opaque cloth, water, ash, and tools. Ruan remained cuffed above with 2 guards. The 3 level 4 intake wardens who had followed him were separately locked. The 2 who had obeyed Peng joined outer security unarmed. No one trusted anyone enough for a simple formation. The tunnel ceiling forced me to bend. Black water reached my shins. Every 10 steps, a root crossed the floor like a pale vein. We wrapped each in wet opaque cloth rather than cutting it. Gao Yun warned that severing a branch before removing its captives would send pressure backward. At the first junction, Duan stopped. This wall should not be here. Fresh bricks closed the old route. Mirror mortar gleamed between them. Beyond, the waste sluice bell rang in uneven pairs. Maji tapped the pipe beside his bedding frame. He had insisted soldiers carry him because he knew the sound. 3 people attached. 1 breath missing. Dragon eyes showed a visible feed line through mortar, but not the room beyond. Thread reading remained locked. I could see only the active line where it crossed the surface. We needed the wall open without severing that line. Duan found an older stone lintel above the new bricks. Take the weight here. Remove from the side. For soldiers braced a timber. Pang could have lifted the lintel alone with earth reinforcement, but the mirror mortar reflected his essence toward the captives. Ordinary leverage was safer. We worked with hammers for 12 minutes. The discipline wardens attacked on the 13th. White poles punched through the thin bricks in a line. 1 caught a soldier's shoulder. Another hooked the timber brace. A level 5 warden on the far side sent metal essence down the shaft and shattered the man's collarbone. Formation through a wall. They did not need to see us clearly because they knew where the tunnel forced bodies to stand. Lin Mei dropped flat. Duan jammed his cane under the lowest pole. Xiao looped rope around the highest. Captain Wen's soldiers pulled together. Zhao could not use her floating sword through the wall without knowing who stood behind it. Names and levels, I called when dragon eyes caught visible hands and essence through broken brick. 1 level 5 at center. 4 level 4 wardens along the line. 5 enemies in the first drainage wave. Pang recognized the center man's ring. Shi Bao. Drop your pole. The inspector order is lawful. Shi Bao answered by twisting the shattered shoulder. No ambiguity remained in that action. I moved along the wall, staying beneath the pole line. Speed 7 helped until mud took my boot. Windstep would fail in deep water and broken footing. I used the brick edge as cover. Lin Mei crawled the other direction and tied our rope around the lowest 2 shafts. Duan called, pull. Xiao, Han Mu, and 4 soldiers hauled. 2 level 4 wardens lost their grips. Captain Wen struck the exposed poles sideways with his saber, breaking the formation's even spacing. Zhao's sword went through the gap and cut every white cord, not every hand. Suppression snapped back into the wardens. 3 fell. Shi Bao held. He drove the center pole through the timber brace. The lintel dropped. I got under it because there was no time to be wise. Body 8 caught weight that belonged to a gate beam. My injured thigh folded. The old tears stretched. Breath stopped against the rib. Furnace muscle waited behind 15 essence, but broken breath made alignment impossible. Timber! I shouted. Duan and Peng shoved the brace back. Lin Mei moved the trapped soldier clear. Su Lian pulled his broken shoulder away from the feed line. I did not call heat until my heel found stone, knee stacked over it, hip came under the load, and 1 breath entered. Then Shi Bao struck the other side of the lintel with his pole. Hostile load. I spent 15 essence. Current essence, 76. Furnace muscle entered the movement I had already aligned. Heat tightened every trained line. I lifted once. Not a sustained hold. 1 bounded surge raised the lintel high enough for Duan to drive the timber brace under it and Pang to lock earth around both ends. I released after 3 breaths. The beam stayed up because ordinary supports took the weight. If I had tried to sustain the technique, the old tears would have reopened under a stone wall. If Shi Bao had wrapped me in a net, poisoned the tunnel, broken my breath sooner, or attacked from both sides, the baseline would not have saved us. Heat remained in my blood. Anger came with it. I wanted through the wall. Lin Mei caught the back of my belt. 3 breaths finished. I stepped back instead of charging. Host control confirmed. Furnace muscle safe baseline mastered. Activation cost remains 15 essence per brief bounded use. Cannot be sustained. Requires breath and body alignment. Raises heat and temper. Formation, restraint, poison, terrain, exhaustion, opposing dragon seals, and excessive load remain effective counters. Mastery did not heal me. My thigh shook. My rib hurt. The skin over one old tear had gone hot enough that Su Lian ordered it wrapped before we moved. We removed the side bricks. Zhao entered first once she could see. Bao and 2 level 4 wardens were conscious and still resisting. Her sword cut their pole heads. Pang used copper keys to lock their technique plates. Captain Wen's soldiers bound them. 2 other level 4 wardens had fallen when suppression snapped back, both lived and received treatment after surrender. First drainage wave accounted for 1 level 5 and 4 level 4. 5 captured alive. No essence award. They were mortal cultivators acting under orders, not corrupted sources. Behind them, the waste sluice room held 3 prisoners attached to a mirrored cistern. Only 2 were breathing. The dead prisoner was named Shenbo. Kai Wen found the name on a slate beside the cistern. Lin Mei found it in the release book. According to the fort, Shenbo had completed treatment, received his clothes and 12 copper coins, signed with his own hand, and walked out the east gate 9 days earlier. His body was still warm. The signature beside his release was a square clerk's hand. The dead man's intake form bore a thumb mark because he had never learned to write. Ordinary evidence made the lie complete. The 2 living prisoners were Bao Lu, the caravan guard from Mo's offer, and a potter named Wu Ning. Both had white roots entering below the shoulder blade. The cistern reflected their essence into black water, where 3 juvenile mirror leeches clung to the underside of a copper lid. We did not repeat the wheel mistake. Gao Yun directed opaque cloth over every panel. Han Mu listened at the feed pipes. Ma Ji counted the bell's uneven strikes. Su Lian and Medic he placed warm compresses around the roots before anyone touched a plate. Pang identified the isolation key. Zhao held the trunk feed with her sword pressure while Duan and Captain Wen turned the rusted valve together. Lin Mei asked Bao Lu his name, route, and home before the roots came out. Kai Wen wrote the answers. Wu Ning gave the name of his kiln and described a burn scar under his shirt. Dragon Eyes confirmed the visible scar only after Medic he exposed it. We built identity from testimony and bodies, not from a system declaring innocence. When the branch pressure fell, Xiao and Han Mu pulled the copper lid into black water. The 3 juvenile leeches surfaced because the cloth denied them reflection. Peng trapped them under clay jars. They remained active but isolated, too entangled with the main trunk to kill safely. Kai Wen marked 3. Su Lian cut Bao Lu's root. Medic he cut Wu Ning's. Both men bled. I had 76 essence, but my cold exhaustion remained and the tunnel ahead still held captives. Su Lian chose ordinary pressure and binding first. Their pulses steadied without magic. We carried Shenbo with us. A dead body is heavy in a different way from a beam. The beam does not have a home someone may still be waiting at. At the next junction, the tunnel divided. The direct pipe led to Mirror Hall. A narrower crawlspace climbed toward lower holding. Mo's 6 offered prisoners had been split between them after he sent the bargain. Lin Mei opened the waxed ledger pages. Ma Jun, Mirror Hall. Lin Xiao, lower holding. Bao Lu was moved to the sluice. The other 3 changed cells. The engine was redistributing named captives while we advanced. That could hide them, kill them, or overload branches we thought were empty. We split, I said. Zhao refused at once. No. If the records are being changed, one route lets the other disappear. Splitting is how formations kill smaller groups. Duan pointed to the pipes. Both branches join under the hall. Leave either running and Mo can feed across. Pang added, lower holding has ordinary bars. Mirror Hall has cultivator seals. I can open holding. Zhao looked at the people around us. None were fresh. The road soldiers had fought 2 attacks. Captives were carrying other captives. My mastered technique had been used once under load and could not be repeated safely without recovery. The wise military answer was to remain together. Lin Mei said, my aunt is that way. She pointed up. Ma Jun is that way. Choose one and Mo moves the other. Zhao made the harder decision. Pang, Lin Mei, Duan, Xiao, Han Mu, for ordinary soldiers, Su Lian, and Medic he took lower holding. They carried Kai Wen's duplicate order and one of Zhao's sword seals. Zhao, Captain Wen, Gao Yun, Ma Ji, 6 soldiers, and I took Mirror Hall. Bao Lu and Wu Ning stayed with a protected casualty station in the cleared sluice room. 2 armed soldiers guarded Rowan's messenger, still unconscious but breathing. Chen Bo remained covered where every passing clerk could see him. Lin Mei tied half the rescue rope around my wrist and kept half. If the wall rings twice, pull. What does pulling do? Means I am alive. That is not enough information. It is what the mirrors allow. She crawled into the upper passage before I could improve the protocol. Our group followed the main pipe. The tunnel widened enough to stand, which meant Mo's wardens could form properly. We heard them before we saw them, pole ends striking stone in 6-beat rhythm. The second wave held the mirror hall door. 3 level 5 wardens stood in front, each with a broad copper shield polished bright. 2 level 6 cultivators stood behind them, Mo Jian and his senior seal keeper. 4 level 4 wardens filled the side niches. 9 enemies visible at the door, completing the 14 Pang had counted when added to the 5 captured at the sluice wall. Mo Jian was shorter than I expected, with white hair and a physician's neat fingernails. Dragon eyes showed level 6, strong water and mirror affinity, and old lung injury, no visible corruption. The senior seal keeper was level 6 with metal affinity and scar tissue around both ears. Mo raised one hand. The formation stopped. Warden Pang has been deceived by a vessel resonance, he said. Inspector Zhao's road evidence concerns intake, not treatment. Stand down and the 6 scheduled prisoners live. You poisoned your messenger, Zhao said. Ruan issued the seed. You signed receipt. For inventory. Chen Bo signed a release while attached to your cistern. Mo's expression did not change. Clerical fraud is not murder. Behind his shields, someone screamed. Gao Yun recognized the sound. Pressure reversal. Mo was using the delay to feed the hall. Captain Wen moved his soldiers into a shield wedge. Zhao's sword floated over his shoulder. I stood behind the second rank where a level 2 injured fighter belonged against level 6 cultivators. Directly challenging Mo would not be courage. It would be surrender with extra steps. Opaque cloth, I said. Soldiers threw wet blankets over the first 2 copper shields. The level 5 wardens drove forward anyway. Metal reinforcement turned the shield line into a moving wall. Captain Wen's wedge slid backward. Poor footing remained. Water from the sluice ran under us. I could not use wind step in the center mud. Furnace Muscle had just completed a hostile trial. The interface marked recovery incomplete. I used body 8, a broken pole, and ordinary angles. I hooked the bottom of the left shield while one struck high. Gao Yun shouted when the feed pipe pulsed. On his count, Zhao severed the reflected essence connecting shield to hull. The level 5 warden lost reinforcement for half a heartbeat. We turned the shield sideways. Ma Ji, carried on a door by 2 soldiers, swung his own useless legs into the warden's knees. The man fell over him. Captain Wen bound his wrist instead of cutting his throat. 1 level 5 down. 6 held the door. The level 4 side wardens threw restraint nets. Zhao cut one. The second caught me from shoulder to ankle. White cord tightened when my cores moved. Furnace Muscle could not align inside it. Wind step failed in nets. Ember Fist might burn 1 strand for 5 essence, but the formation would spear me before I cleared the rest. Gao Yun rolled under the net's edge and pressed his burned scalp against the wet floor. His weak fire affinity entered the water on purpose. Not enough to ignite. Enough to cloud the mirror polish with steam. Ma Ji used both hands to drag the net anchor under his door stretcher. Captain Wen stepped on it. I went slack instead of fighting. The wardens pulled, expecting resistance, and the anchor slid beneath the stretcher. Zhao's sword cut the now visible anchor ring. The net loosened. Allies in terrain defeated restraint. My level had not. We took the second level 5 shield warden when Wen's wedge opened and let him overextend. The third retreated into the hall. Mo and the senior keeper released a mirrored wave through the doorway. Zhao met it with her sword. The collision shook the entire fort. 2 rings came through the rope around my wrist. Lin Mei was alive. Then the rope pulled hard and did not release. I could not go to Lin Mei. Mo Jian's wave filled the passage. Zhao stood in front of it with both hands on her sword. Gold light bent around her, revealing why her level remained concealed to ordinary inspection. She was stronger than any person in the tunnel. She was also fixed in place. If she yielded 1 step, reflected pressure would reach Gao Yun, Ma Ji, and every wounded soldier behind us. The 2 level 6 wardens were not stronger than Zhao together. They did not need to be. They had an engine, prepared mirrors, captives attached behind them, and a corridor that turned retreat into a funnel. My rope pulled again. Alive. In trouble. Not enough information. Captain Wen took command of our side without waiting for approval. 2 shield prisoners secured. 4 side wardens advancing. Vessel stays rear. Gao Yun calls pulses. Ma Ji watches routes. Being ordered to the rear hurt my pride for half a second. Crimson noticed. I stayed where the plan needed me. The 4 level 4 wardens advanced in pairs with forked poles. Their formation expected a powerful center. One gave them none. His soldiers opened lanes, struck the pole shafts, and retreated around the wet blankets. I used the broken pole to catch ankles when wardens stepped onto known stones. Ma Ji called which white roots were live. Gao Yun called when mirror pressure weakened. The first level 4 warden fell to a soldier's shield edge and surrendered when one put a saber at his neck. The second tried to crawl into a side niche, Captain Wen chained him to his partner. The third reached Gao Yun. I intercepted his wrist, took a metal strengthened elbow across my fractured rib, and lost breath. He was level 4. I was level 2 and injured. Body 8 did not make the difference disappear. He drove me into the wall. A mirrored nail beside my shoulder lit blue on one side and red on the other. Opposing pressure pressed toward both cores. I turned my face and bit his sleeve, the least dignified useful action available. He reacted by pulling his arm. That gave Wen's soldier room to strike the back of his knee. Gao Yun wrapped a wet blanket over his head. We put him down together. The 4th level 4 warden retreated into the hall. 3 side wardens captured, 1 withdrew. 2 level 5 shield wardens captured, 1 withdrew. At the hall threshold, Mo retained himself, the level 6 senior keeper, 1 level 5, and 1 level 4, for active wardens. The rope around my wrist went slack. I pulled twice. No answer. Azure offered the clean calculation. Remain. The inspector holds the decisive front. 1 scout cannot outweigh the hall. Crimson offered the opposite stupidity. Break the wall. Kill everyone between. I looked at Ma Ji. How long until the next engine pulse? He pressed his palm to the floor. Maybe 60 breaths. Maybe less. They changed rhythm. Gao Yun said, if we isolate the hall feed, Zhao can move. The feed pipe ran along the left wall, split around the door, and disappeared behind 2 copper plates. One plate reflected Zhao's gold pressure. The other carried a weaker blue strand from a captive inside. Cutting either blindly could send the wave through the person. Dragon eyes showed the visible junction but not the hidden route. Thread reading remained unavailable. I needed the door open or the mirror dirty. The 3rd level 5 shield warden stood just inside. His shield remained clean. I had 76 essence. Wind step cost 20. Footing through the doorway looked dry for 1 planted step, but a restraint cord hung beyond it. I could cross 1 angle and still land inside a level 6 formation. Furnace muscle recovery was incomplete. Ember fist could cloud the shield but required contact. Lin Mei's rope lay still. I did not choose alone. What? Bad angle. Gao. Dirty shield breaks 1 reflection. Ma. Next pulse kills someone. Zhao. She could barely speak through the pressure. 1 step. Return. That was the plan. Not defeat Mo. Not free the hall alone. 1 step to spoil a mirror and return. I waited until breath came around the rib. Known dry stone at the threshold. Exit marked beside Wen's shield. No net on the landing, only beyond it. Fear present and named. Wind step activated. Current essence, 56. Azure cold carried me 1 impossible angle past the doorway. I did not fly. I landed beside the level 5 warden and slapped a wet, bloody bandage across his shield. The technique ended. He hit me with the shield rim before I could turn. My forearm took it. Numb fingers became a numb hand. I dropped under the return swing and rolled back through the doorway because Captain Wen hooked my belt with his pole. The shield's reflection failed. Zhao moved 1 foot. Her sword split the copper plate carrying her own pressure. The captive's blue strand remained intact. Mirror force collapsed from the corridor into the hall. Mo Jian and the senior keeper staggered. Captain Wen's soldiers surged to the threshold. Zhao's sword took every weapon from the 4 remaining wardens in a circle of gold. She stopped each cut at skin. Yield, she said. The level 4 warden dropped his pole. The level 5 shield warden followed. The senior keeper looked at Mo. Mo reached for a black seed. The senior keeper struck his hand away. Enough, the man said. Mo tried to trigger the hall plate with his other hand. Zhao's sword pinned his sleeve to the door. All 4 surrendered after that, though Mo used the word protested. Second wave accounted for 3 level 5 wardens and 2 level 6 wardens at center, plus 4 level 4 wardens in side niches. Along with the 1 level 5 and 4 level 4 captured at the sluice wall, all 14 inner cultivator wardens were alive, disarmed, and detained. The intake group remains separately accounted for above. The mirror hall doors opened. 6 prisoners hung in harnesses over a round pit. Ma Jun was one. 2 others were the remaining names from Mo's offer, a reed ferry net maker named Shinli and a South Bank charcoal burner named Fanyu. The other 3 had no connection to our villages, an unlicensed raincaller, an army deserter with real charges, and a woman whose body carried visible black corruption scars around a sealed core. Defensible release required more than opening every lock because one record lied. The raincaller's warrant had expired. The deserter's sentence remained signed and witnessed, though the engine attachment was unlawful. The corrupted woman needed medical isolation without feeding. We separated custody from exploitation. Gao Yun climbed to the hall controls. Ma Ji directed from his stretcher. Zhao held the remaining pressure. Kai Wen arrived with the isolation order. We covered mirrors, turned valves, and lowered harnesses one at a time. Ma Jun reached the floor and asked for his brother before asking where he was. Alive, I said. Ma Ji is in the passage. He crawled there because his legs would not support him. The rope around my wrist moved once. Lin Mei. She emerged from the upper crawlspace with blood over one eyebrow, half carrying her aunt. Lin Xiao was thin, blue affinity burns circling both wrists. Duan came behind them with a broken cane. Xiao and Han Mu supported Yifan. Pang carried 2 children from the lower holding, one under each arm. Su Lian walked last, holding the sword seal Zhao had given her. They had not waited for our victory. Pang opened the ordinary bars. Lin Mei found the false wall behind the 7th cell. Duan broke his cane in the lock gear. Xiao and Han Mu redirected runoff through the white roots. Su Lian convinced 3 frightened guards to surrender by showing them Mo's poison record and Zhao's seal. The lower branch was isolated before its leeches could surface. Lin Mei touched the rope around my wrist. Enough information? Barely. Lin Xiao looked at her niece, then at me. Who is the burned stranger? Long story, Lin Mei said. Bad listener. That translated perfectly. The system waited until captives were down, branch plates broken, and no feeding line remained active in Mirror Hall or Lower Holding. Post-Level 2 integration available. Requirement: 30 stabilized essence deposited during food, rest, and host control. Deposit leaves usable reserves. Overflow carries. Leveling grants no healing. Current essence, 56. We had food in the casualty station. I had rested between drills, though not enough. Host control remained mine after Azure's Windstep and Crimson's training. 30 essence would leave 26, enough for 1 furnace activation or 1 Windstep but not both. The main engine still waited beneath the chimney. I could postpone. I also needed the will increase promised by the level, and the engine was built to attack balance and identity. I ate broth under Su Lian's supervision. I sat with both feet on stone while prisoners were counted around me. I deposited 30. Current essence, 26. Level gained. Chen Kai, level 3. Will increased automatically to 9. Choose 1 bonus increase, body or perception. The old tiers, the gate bars, and the work still ahead made the choice plain. Body. Body increased to 9. Final stats, body 9. Speed 7. Spirit 4. Perception 6. Will 9. No healing occurred. My rib remained broken. My thigh channel, shoulder tear, forearm wound and numbness, side cut, old muscle tears, calf and foot strain, palm burns, blood loss, eye strain, cold exhaustion, and residual tremor remained. Body 9 improved the capacity I could recover into. It did not rewrite the damage already there. 1 locked panel opened. Balance meter visibility unlocked. Historical exact values unavailable. No unshown past increments reconstructed. Current Azure influence, 5. Current Crimson influence, 5. Difference, 0, stable. The numbers described current influence, not separate spendable essence. They did not reveal thoughts, predict possession, or unlock the core ledger. Core ledger, locked. For the first time, I could see the present balance without pretending I had always known its history. Below the hall, the chimney inhaled. All 6 branch routes were now isolated: wheel, lower holding, infirmary, mirror hall, discipline cells, and waste sluice. The captives were clear of active feed plates. Only the main engine remained. The main engine was beneath the chimney, but no stair led straight to it. That was deliberate. 6 branch passages spiraled down around a central stone cylinder. The walls were faced with copper mirrors on the engine side and plain brick on ours. Heat moved upward through narrow vents while cold water ran down the floor. The design kept workers outside the reflection until the last door. Gao Yun said the final door required 3 branch keys turned together. Peng had one. Ruan had worn one at his throat. Mo carried the third inside his sleeve. Ruan's plate was cracked but usable after Kai Wen wired it between 2 pieces of wood. Mo refused to surrender his key because he claimed emergency shutdown would kill everyone in the fort. Zhao searched him under written authority and found it sewn into his collar. 3 keys. 6 isolated branches. Captives moved beyond feed range. We had removed every stated reason to keep the engine running. Peng still hesitated. The chimney also clears residue from the moat, he said. If the trunk fails inward, corruption may enter the foundations. Gao Yun answered from a soldier's shoulder. It already entered. You just kept it below sight. Peng looked older after 4 days. He had opened records, surrendered keys, carried children, and accepted Zhao's suspension. None of those acts erased that he had presided over the fort. Neither did responsibility require him to have known every hidden pipe. The believable failure was enough. He had measured order at the gate and stopped counting people below it. Can we vent outward? I asked. Duan studied the old stable plan while Kai Wen read labels from the graph diagram. Chimney draft runs down. Reverse the mode bellows and open the ash hatch. Pressure leaves through the roof. Into the fort? Captain Wen asked. Into the sky, Gao Yun said. If the hatch is not blocked. Lin Mei had already gone to check it with Han Mu and 2 road soldiers. That left treatment and release work above. Zhao would not take every capable person underground while newly freed captives lay in corridors. Su Lian, Medic He, Yifan, and Lin Xiao organized the infirmary. Xiao and Han Mu chose to come with us because they knew the water valves. Ma Ji remained with his brother and directed pipe signals by tapping from the hall. Ma Jun refused to leave his side. The 2 children stayed with Yifan. The 3 surrendered lower holding guards joined Captain Wen's casualty detail unarmed. The 14 inner cultivator wardens remained bound in separate groups by level and command. Ruan's 3 level 4 followers remained locked above. The 2 intake wardens loyal to Peng guarded the record room without weapons. Luo and 6 surviving core hunters remained chained under road soldiers. No one vanished while attention shifted below. My current state was less impressive than level 3 sounded. Current essence, 26. Body 9 did not remove the tremor in my left hand or the numbness in my forearm. Will 9 did not prevent fear. The balance meter showed Azure 5, Crimson 5, a stable difference of 0. Furnace muscle was mastered only at its safe baseline, 15 per brief activation with breath and alignment. Wind step remained 20 for one known footing angle. Mending breath remained 5 for a localized stabilization or 15 for full treatment. Ember fist remained 5. Core ledger remained locked. We turned the 3 keys. The door opened inward with a wet sigh. The chamber beyond was circular. 7 mirror leeches hung from the ceiling around a black trunk, each larger than the one in the treadmill hall. Their bodies had been stretched into transparent sacs. White roots entered at the top. Copper tubes left at the bottom and joined 6 branch manifolds. At the center, a column of mirrors rotated around a hollow space, reflecting each leech into dozens. The engine was not one animal. It was a corruption arrangement built from 7 living creatures, grave roots, prisoners' stolen essence, and paperwork that kept new bodies arriving. No captives remained attached. The leeches still held what had already been taken. Dragon eyes gave visible information in pain. Main mirror engine. Corrupted source network. 7 level 4 mirror leeches, rooted and mutually reflecting. Affinity, reflection, suppression, essence and balance. Visible hazard, severing 1 while reflections remain transfers stored pressure to 6. Visible weakness, deny mutual reflection, vent trunk, then break roots in matched sequence. No complete sequence appeared. No hidden valve labels translated themselves. I closed the sight before blue blood reached my eye. Gao Yun saw me looking. It showed you a path? It showed a hazard and a weakness. Not instructions. Good. People who think machines give instructions lose hands. The chamber door slammed behind us. Not Mo. Not Ruan. The rotating mirror column had pulled the door through its own pressure. White cords dropped from the ceiling and sealed the keys in place. The 7 leeches turned toward our heat. The branch isolation had starved them. Now we were the only essence sources in the room. 3 clay jars in the rescue team shattered outside the door. The juvenile leeches from the waste cistern had followed the feed vibration through drain pipes. They were not as isolated as we believed. Thin silver bodies entered under the threshold and snapped at Xiao's ankles. One caught his injured wrist. A reflected drain hit my cores through the branch keys. Forced mirror siphon, 6 essence. Current essence, 20. Azure and crimson influence values did not change. The drain removed usable essence under hostile force. It did not by itself prove either spirit had gained influence. Xiao shouted. Han Mu struck the juvenile with the flattened fairy token. Captain Wen stamped on another under his boot. Peng trapped the third against the door with a copper key. The little leeches reflected one another across the polished floor. Hit one, and the mouth appeared at another angle. We used what had worked before. Duan threw ash. Zhao cut the water pipe over the door. Xiao and Han Mu opened the valve with both hands. Black water and ash turned the copper floor opaque. The 3 juveniles surfaced in their true positions. I had 20 essence. Ember Fist would cost 5. Windstep would consume all 20 and had no purpose in standing water. Furnace Muscle cost 15 but offered the wrong tool. We used clay jars, a broken shield, and ordinary weight. Captain Wen pinned one under the shield. Peng trapped the second with his robe and accepted the teeth through his sleeve. Han Mu and Xiao stretched the third between the fairy token and a valve wheel. Xiao cut the 3 reflected feed threads at once. The juveniles collapsed. 3 hostile mirror leeches defeated. Dragon essence gained, 30. Current essence, 50. The 3 from the sluice were now fully accounted for. They had remained active after isolation, escaped through the drain during the final door turn, attacked, and were defeated here. None remained in the pipes. The 7 rooted adults began ringing like glass. Every polished surface showed us dying in a different order. None of those images was the future. They were fear reflected back with technique behind it. Well, 9 gave me more room to choose. It did not make the pictures pleasant. The engine attacked balance before it attacked flesh. The first pulse reflected azure without crimson. My left eye filled the chamber. Cold judgment ran through every image. In one, I watched Captain Wen drown and calculated the pressure loss. In another, I left Xiao's wrist inside a leech because cutting the limb saved time. In a third, Lin Mei's face became an obstacle between me and the vent. The balance meter held at azure 5, crimson 5. Images were not increments. Temptation was not surrender. The second pulse reflected crimson alone. 7 copies of me tore the leeches apart with bare hands, then continued into the wardens above. Heat climbed my throat. My fractured rib hurt less because anger occupied more space. The meter still held. Do not watch yourself, Zhao said. Good advice from a woman surrounded by mirrored versions of her own sword. We covered panels with the supplies we carried. Wet blankets took 2. Ash and mud spoiled 3 more. The central rotating column kept making new angles. Its lower bearing stood inside a ring of white roots. The ash hatch lay beyond it under a counterweight iron cover. Duan studied the moving load. Stop column. Open hatch. Reverse bellows. The iron cover had 2 handles, one on each side of the bearing. No one could reach both while the column turned. Zhao could pin the rotation with her sword, but doing so exposed her to reflected force from 7 level 4 leeches. Peng could hold the roots with earth affinity, but mirror copper sent his pressure back into his injured wrist. We needed several limited actions, not one hero. Captain Wen assigned them. Zhao stopped the column for 3 breaths. Peng held the lower roots. Duan and Gao Yun took the bellows lever. Xiao and Han Mu controlled the water valve. Wen's soldiers threw cloth. I would lift the ash cover once and release it onto the safety prop. A brief furnace activation fit that job. It did not fit the floor. Standing water covered both handles. White cords floated in it like harmless thread. A furnace surge could increase strength but not prevent a cord from wrapping my ankle, a poison needle from entering my heel, or bad terrain from breaking alignment. We drained the floor first. Xiao and Han Mu turned the valve. Nothing happened. A mirror leech had filled the outlet with clear skin. Lin Mei's rope dropped through the chimney vent. She had reached the ash hatch from above and found it blocked. She could not hear our words through the engine, but she felt the rope strike water. She pulled once, twice, then fed the line down beside the central column. I tied the broken shield to it and wrote one word in ash on the inner surface: pull. Writing meant nothing to me in this language. Gao Yun supplied the character while I copied it. Lin Mei understood when the shield rose. The rope tightened from above. She, 2 road soldiers, and whoever else she had recruited hauled on the outer hatch while we worked below. Zhao drove her sword into the rotating column. Gold light struck 7 reflections. The leeches all bit at once. One caught the sword's reflected edge and pulled Zhao forward. She planted both feet. Her concealed strength filled the chamber, but she did not simply cut everything because the stored pressure would transfer. 3 breaths, she said. Pang locked earth around the root ring. Duan and Gao Yun leaned on the bellows lever. It moved 1 inch. I stepped into the water toward the first handle. A white cord wrapped my wounded left ankle. Restraint counter. I did not activate. I stopped, crouched, and cut it with the edge of the cracked keyplate. The cord had no one controlling it except engine tension. It tightened as I sawed. Zhao redirected water through the valve, floating slack toward me. Han Mu hooked it with his token. Together we freed the ankle. Zhao's 3 breaths ended. She pulled her sword clear. The column resumed turning. No one pretended the first attempt had almost succeeded. We reset. On the second attempt, Pang's old wrist failed under reflected earth pressure. The root ring lifted and caught Duan's leg. Captain Wen abandoned the bellows to pull him free. Correct decision. Failed sequence. We reset again. Pang wrapped his wrist. I can hold it. You can hold for 2 breaths, Su Lian would have said if she were there. I said it for her. He did not argue. Duan changed the lever plan. Instead of 2 people forcing the bellows through the full arc, 6 soldiers tied a rope to it and used the chimney team as counterweight. Lin Mei could not hear the count, so Han Mu struck the water pipe 3 times. The signal traveled through metal. 3 knocks answered from above. Third attempt. Zhao stopped the column. Pang held the root ring for 2 breaths, then released before his wrist broke. Captain Wen's soldiers hauled. Lin Mei's team pulled from the roof. The bellows lever crossed halfway and locked into the reverse notch. Air changed direction. The chimney exhaled for the first time. Ash burst upward. The outer hatch rose 1 handspan, not enough. The inner iron cover remained on its counterweight. I reached both handles. Heel on stone, not root. Knees aligned. Hip under the cover. Shoulders set despite the old tear. Breath prepared around the broken rib. Furnace muscle activated, 15 essence. Current essence, 35. Balance change recorded, Crimson influence 5 to 6. Current balance, Azure 5, Crimson 6. Difference 1. Stable. Heat entered the trained lines. Body 9 and the safe baseline turned 1 bounded lift into enough force. I raised the iron cover. The nearest leech reflected my movement backward. My arms appeared to lower while the weight rose. I ignored sight and followed the load through my feet. 1 breath. Duan kicked the safety prop toward the gap. 2 breaths. The prop struck a white root and stopped short. Crimson urged me to hold. More strength weighted beyond the baseline. My shoulder began to shake. Sustaining would reopen the tears. Lin Mei's rope snapped taut through the vent. The broken shield tied to it swung under the cover and knocked the prop into place. 3 breaths. I released furnace muscle. The iron cover settled onto ordinary wood and stayed open. Heat remained. Temper rose. I looked at the 7 leeches and wanted to tear them down before the sequence was ready. The balance meter showed a difference of 1, stable but changed. The number did not command me. Lin Mei's rope hung in front of my face. I stepped away. Mastery meant ending the power on time. The chimney pulled gray vapor upward. 7 leeches deflated as stored residue vented. Their mutual reflections weakened. The main trunk became visible inside the stopped column, black and wet, wrapped around a core-glass spindle. Then Mo Jian's voice came through the branch keys. Close the vent, he said from above. The capital array will feel the discharge. Zhao looked at Pang. Pang's face drained of color. The engine is tied to the Imperial warning lattice. Did you know? I asked. I knew the fort reported catastrophic failure automatically. I did not know the feeding trunk used the same line. The warning had not gone yet. The engine still ran. Closing the vent could hide the evidence long enough for officials to bury it. We left it open. People first. Consequences after. Venting the trunk made the 7 adult leeches desperate. They tore free of their sealing hooks one after another. Rooted did not mean immobile. Their transparent bodies stretched while white tendons held them to the main trunk. The first fell toward Gao Yun. Captain Wen caught it on the broken shield. The second wrapped Pang's chest and reflected his earth pressure inward. The third entered Zhao's sword image and appeared along the blade beside her hand. Four remained overhead, feeding the attack through mutual reflections. We had denied most polished surfaces, but the leeches themselves reflected one another. Breaking them in sequence would transfer pressure unless the trunk vented faster than they could pass it. Matched roots, Gao Yun said. Opposite pairs. Last one with trunk. 7 could not form perfect pairs. 3 pairs in center, I answered. Duan took the bellows. Xiao and Han Mu held water flow. Captain Wen and Pang managed the fallen bodies. Zhao controlled the core glass spindle with her sword point. Lin Mei's rope moved through the vent, ready to pull the outer hatch wider. I needed to cross to the far route where the third pair joined. The central floor was now dry enough for known footing, but leech bodies swept across it. Wind step could carry one angle. It could not predict where a leech would be. Dragon eyes showed current feed lines only while visible. No thread reading. No future sight. Gao Yun watched the pulses. After the red flash, he said. Floor clears for one breath. Red light moved through the trunk. I inhaled. Known landing beside the third route. Prepared exit behind the column. Fear present. No net on the path. Wind step activated, 20 essence. Current essence, 15. Balance change recorded, Azure influence 5 to 6. Current balance, Azure 6, Crimson 6. Difference 0. Stable. One cold step changed my angle. I landed beside the far route as a leech body swept through the space I had left. The technique ended. My foot slipped on clear skin, and I caught the column with my injured forearm. Stable was not graceful. Pair 1. Gao Yun called. Zhao cut 2 opposite ceiling routes at the same instant. Captain Wen and Pang pulled their leeches away from people. Stored light rushed toward the trunk and vented as blue-gray vapor. 5 adults remained active. Pair 2. Duan released a bellows catch. The moving rope tore 2 roots against iron hooks the prisoners had placed. Xiao and Han Mu flooded the severed ends with black water so they could not reflect cleanly. 3 adults remained. The pair beside me tightened around one another. I had 15 essence. Ember Fist cost 5. The far root's metal sheath resisted ordinary blades and carried strong cold. Fire could weaken the sheath if I struck once. I spent 5. Current essence, 10. Balance change recorded, Crimson influence 6 to 7. Current balance, Azure 6, Crimson 7. Difference 1. Stable. Ember Fist entered the cracked key plate. Heat burned through my bandage and into the metal collar around both roots. The sheath expanded. I struck with the plate. Gao Yun hit the matching collar from the other side with a hammer. Both roots broke together. 1 adult remained attached to the main trunk. The 2 severed leeches collapsed toward me. I could not use wind step again. I had 10 essence, bad footing, and no prepared breath. Furnace muscle cost 15. I threw myself behind the column and let Zhao's sword pin both bodies to the muddy wall. The last leech was the largest. It had fed every branch by receiving the imbalance the other 6 could not hold. Blue and red rolled through its body in separate storms. When the paired roots broke, it wrapped itself around the core glass spindle. The engine began pulling the vent shut. Lin Mei's rope burned through my hands as the outer team fought it. Captain Wen added his weight. Pang took the rope below his injured wrist. Xiao, Han Mu, Duan, Gao Yun, and 6 soldiers joined. People who had been prisoners inside the machine now pulled against the machine. The leech reflected their line into 7 false ropes. Only 1 carried weight. I followed the pressure under my burned palm, not the image. The main trunk rose from the floor. Inside it were identity tiles. Hundreds of thin bone slips had been layered around the core glass, each bearing a prisoner number. The engine did not merely feed on essence. The slips told it which reflection belonged to which captive, allowing failed cultivators to be drained across different rooms without the leeches losing the source. Kaiwan had called the machine efficient. The court would call the tiles records. Lin Mei would call them names. Pull the tiles first, I said. Zhao's sword could sever the trunk now. She held. Peng said, the vent is closing. Tiles first. I reached into the black root. Core glass cut my forearm. Opposing blue-red pressure entered the old arrow wound and turned my numb fingers into fire. Bounded immortality did not make the glass harmless. It could interfere with both cores and prevent repair. I tore out 1 bundle of slips. Gao Yun caught it. Duan took the next. Xiao and Han Mu passed them toward the door. Captain Wen's soldiers used their shields as trays. Zhao held the spindle steady while the last leech bit along her sword and failed to move her. The trunk tightened around my arm. A core glass edge cut deeper. Blood ran into the engine. The last leech swelled on it. Su Lian was not in the chamber. Medic, he was above. I had 10 essence. A local mending breath pulse cost 5 and could slow the bleeding without rebuilding tissue or replacing blood. Using Azure would also change the visible influence under the now unlocked meter. I pulled my arm free first. Ordinary pressure with cloth from Captain Wen slowed the wound enough to assess. The cut crossed the forearm but had not severed the artery. My old arrow injury had reopened. Fingers remained attached. I spent 5 essence on a localized stabilization pulse. Current essence, 5. Balance change recorded, Azure influence 6 to 7. Current balance, Azure 7, Crimson 7. Difference 0. Stable. Cold narrowed the bleeding and supported the damaged forearm. It did not eject glass fragments, return lost blood, restore numb fingers, or heal the old wound. Captain Wen wrapped it over the pulse. The last bundle of identity slips came free. Kaiwan counted them at the threshold, 212. That did not mean 212 living prisoners. Some numbers belonged to dead people. Some had been moved. Some may have been duplicated. The tiles preserved identities for audit, not a magical casualty count. Now, Zhao said. Gao Yun called the pulse. Duan opened the bellows fully. Xiao and Han Mu released black water across the spindle. Lin Mei's team pulled the outer hatch to its stop. Peng held the trunk with his remaining keys. Captain Wen's soldiers kept the rescued tiles clear. Zhao cut the core glass spindle. I struck the exposed black root with the cracked key plate. The last leech tried to reflect the blow into my chest. The muddy surfaces denied it. The force became only force. Body 9, ordinary leverage, and the opening everyone else had made carried the plate through. The trunk broke. The final leech collapsed empty. The 6 previously severed adults stopped moving. The 5 leeches from the wheel node and 3 juveniles from the waste branch were already accounted for. 7 adults had remained in the main chamber, all 7 were now defeated by matched isolation and source destruction. No active mirror leech remained in any inspected branch, pipe, or engine chamber. Main corruption engine destroyed. Dragon essence gained, 90. Current essence, 95. The award recognized destruction of the active corruption source. It did not attach to Mo, Ruan, surrendered wardens, dead Chinbo, or any helpless captive. The chimney exhaled one long column of gray light. Then it stopped. No branch bell answered. No root pulled at a prisoner. No mirror bowl turned toward my cores. The engine was broken before we climbed out of the chamber. The people above were not inventory anymore. They still needed law to make the open doors hold. We counted living captives before we counted victories. Fort Rolls claimed 43 living people in custody when our convoy arrived, excluding our 11 formal prisoners. We found 41 alive, 26 in ordinary cells, 6 in Mirror Hall, 6 across the infirmary and discipline rooms, and 3 in the wheel chamber. Chen Bo had died at the waste cistern. One woman, Lia Shan, had died in the infirmary the night before our arrival. Yifan and 2 patients confirmed the body had been taken away at dawn. The false active roll accounted for everyone, 41 survivors and 2 concealed deaths. The legal review separated 4 groups. 18 had no warrant at all, only route reservations or reactive classifications. 8 had expired labor or quarantine orders. 7 had valid charges unrelated to the engine, including the army deserter and 2 violent offenders. 8 required medical isolation because visible corruption or severe illness made immediate travel dangerous. Isolation meant guarded treatment without roots, leeches, mirrors, or feeding. Zhao cancelled the false and expired custody orders under her emergency seal. Pang countersigned and surrendered authority to revoke them. Kaiwan copied every release twice. Lin Mei, Xiao, Su Lian, Duan, and 3 local captives read names back. People who could not write used witness thumb marks. People too weak to stand were still legally released even if they remained in the infirmary by choice. The Willowbank prisoners came first only because their evidence was complete first. Ma Ji and Ma Jun were released together. Their route warrant bore a dead magistrate seal dated after his burial, a fact Elder Shun's ledger had preserved. Lin Mei made Kaiwan write that Ma Ji remained unable to walk because of engine injury. Han Mu's predated delivery and false labor order cleared him. Yifan's quarantine had expired months earlier. Lin Xiao's blue reactive classification had never been a charge. Xinli, Fanyu, Baolu, Wu Ning, Gao Yun, and the others received the same document-by-document review. Xiaoren, Su Lian, and Duan He had been entered as delivered before arriving. Zhao voided their custody. Duan's old desertion from fort employment was not military desertion, he had been a civilian stable guard. His employer could claim wages or property in a civil hearing, not feed him to a mirror. Luo and his 6 surviving core hunters stayed chained. Their charges had living witnesses, collar hardware, route records, and bodies attached to their work. Mo Jian, Ruanko, Shi Bao, the other resisting wardens, and the senior officers remained detained pending court review. The wardens who surrendered early were disarmed witnesses, not quietly pardoned. Pang asked Zhao to arrest him. She refused the simplicity. You remain under suspension. You will preserve the fort, feed the released, and sign every failure you discover. Flight becomes guilt. Work is not acquittal. He bowed. Plausible did not mean clean. Guilty did not always mean useless. At sunset, Captain Wen opened the outer gate. 26 people crossed it free that day. 8 medically isolated captives stayed voluntarily under Su Lian, Yifan, and Medic He. 7 people with valid charges moved to ordinary dry cells under Zhao's seal. The live arithmetic held, 26 released, 8 treated, 7 lawfully held, totaling 41 survivors. Chen Bo and Liao Shan were entered separately as deaths, correcting the false active roll without hiding either loss inside the total. Our convoy was handled separately. Xiao, Su Lian, and Duan were the 3 wrongfully classified civilians, and all 3 walked out free. My custody under Zhao's forbidden vessel authority remained lawful but changed form. Lin Mei had never been a prisoner. Luo and 6 core hunters remained prisoners. I remained under Zhao's forbidden vessel authority. The prison engine was gone. The Willowbank prisoners were free. Other defensible captives were free or in treatment by consent. Only after the last release strip crossed the gate did the dead chimney ring once. The ring came from the signal tower, not the engine. Captain Wen had obeyed Zhao's order and held the tower throughout the fighting. No warning had left while captives remained attached or records unsecured. Now a copper mirror on its upper floor glowed by itself, awakened by the engine's final discharge. Pang said the Imperial Lattice required a human seal to send detail. Catastrophic failure had merely opened the line. Zhao climbed the tower with Kai Wan, Lin Mei, and Captain Wan. I stayed in the courtyard where released people could see I was not using their freedom as cover to escape. Su Lian removed cordless splinters from my forearm without mending breath. I had 95 essence, but cold exhaustion and blood loss still mattered. The balance meter remained Azure 7, Crimson 7. Equal influence did not mean healthy. It meant neither dragon held an advantage on the visible scale. My final state was level 3. Body 9, Speed 7, Spirit 4, Perception 6, Will 9. Current Essence 95. Mending Breath remained 5 for a local stabilization or 15 for full treatment. Ember Fist cost 5. Wind Step cost 20. Furnace Muscles Mastered Safe Baseline cost 15 for one brief aligned effort and could not be sustained. Heat, temper, restraint, poison, formations, broken breath, bad terrain, exhaustion, opposing dragon seals, and excessive loads still countered it. Core ledger remained locked. Smoke veil, thread reading, crimson regrowth, and the other named techniques remained unavailable. The injury list had grown, not vanished. Stabilized left thigh channel with opposing energy damage, fractured rib, stabilized right shoulder, reopened left forearm arrow 1 with cordless cut and finger numbness, stabilized side cut, recovering but still vulnerable back and thigh tears, calf and foot strain, palm abrasion and renewed burns, blood loss, eye strain, cold exhaustion, residual hand tremor, bruising from the mirror hall shield. Level 3 had healed none of it. Lin Xiao sat beside Lin Mei in the tower stair when they returned. They had already argued about why Lin Mei left Willowbank, why her aunt had crossed to South Bank, and who had been more foolish. Their hands remained linked through the whole argument. Zhao stopped in front of me. Your road custody order assumed delivery to a functioning royal fort. This one is not functioning. It is functioning more honestly than this morning. Low bar. She gave me a new bamboo strip. I could not read it. Lin Mei did. Inspector Parole, she said. He may leave the fort and travel to protected evidence sites. Must answer Zhao's summons. Cannot approach capital arrays, dragon relic stores, or royal succession sites without permission. Zhao accepts responsibility if he breaks terms. I looked at Zhao. Why? Because the records prove confinement here increased the danger. Because you entered by choice after your village was protected. Because you could have escaped before the engine fell and did not. None of that proves you harmless. Fair. You recover freedom of movement under written limits, not trust without evidence. That was more freedom than the open road at the salt marker. It did not depend on someone else paying if I ran. I pressed my thumb beside her seal. The cage had become a rule I could read through people I trusted, challenge in front of witnesses, and choose to accept. Outside the gate, Ma Ji lay on a cart beside Ma Junxiao and Han Mu argued over the safest road to Reed Ferry. Su Lian and Yi Fan organized the medically isolated patients before discussing their own homes. Duan inventoried the fort stable and found enough sound animals for the weakest travelers. Released captives chose destinations, guards, and whether to stay for treatment. No one waited for me to decide their lives. The fort had spent too long making choices for them. Now each choice belonged to its maker. Night settled over Black Reed Fort. The copper mirror in the signal tower brightened from orange to white. The imperial lattice had opened in narrow window. If Zhao sent nothing, the capital would receive only catastrophic engine failure and dispatch its own story with its own troops. If she sent a report, she would place her seal beneath evidence that accused a royal prison. Kaiwan stacked the documents in order: Luo's ledger, the predated intake entries, the concealed cart strip, Mo's 2-day transfer list, Qinbo's false release, the poison issue record, the corrected captive roll, 26 releases, 8 voluntary treatments, 7 lawful holds, and 2 recorded deaths. Lin Mei added copies of the identity tile numbers. Pang added his confession of negligent oversight without claiming knowledge the evidence did not prove. Zhao dictated the warning. Black Reed Fort's corruption engine had been destroyed after unlawful human feeding was verified. The inner wardens had resisted inspector suspension. Released captives and preserved records required protection. The forbidden twin dragon vessel had reached level 3, remained under inspector parole, and had not attacked surrendered personnel. Willowbank's 30-day protection remained in force. She did not call me innocent. She did not call Peng innocent. She did not soften what the fort had done. Captain Wen pressed the transmission lever. Only then, after the engine was broken, every captive counted, Willowbank's prisoners released, other defensible captives freed, and treatment made voluntary, did the warning leave Black Reed Fort. White light climbed the tower and crossed the southern sky in a line too straight to be lightning. Dragon eyes could not follow it beyond sight. I did not know who would read it, what region Hanxiu would believe, or how many soldiers the capital would send. The balance meter offered no prediction. Translation could not reach a court hundreds of miles away. We had evidence. The capital had power. Lin Mei stood beside me on the wall, her aunt asleep below under Su Lian's care. Zhao watched from the tower. Peng remained in the courtyard signing food orders for people his fort had consumed. Xiao, Duan, Hanmu, Gao Yun, Ma Ji, Ma Jun, Yifan, Lin Xiao, Shili, Fan Yu, Bao Lu, Wu Ning, and dozens of others were alive to contradict any clean official lie. Crimson wanted the approaching conflict welcomed. Azure wanted us gone before attachment became liability. Azure influence 7. Crimson influence 7. Difference 0. I listened to both and obeyed neither. The light vanished south. A heartbeat later, an answer flashed on the horizon. Not words. A red imperial acknowledgement, bright enough to turn the ash moat into blood-colored glass. The capital had received the warning. And now at New Black Reed Fort had failed to keep me in a cage.